God, you know my every thought. And you know my ways, the path on which I walk. And you know me better than I know myself. You've known me longer than anyone else. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, and I can't even understand it. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. I can't even comprehend it, but I know you see. Oh, this I know you see. I could walk where men may never tread, or plunge the depths where I could make my bed. But I never went hide and seek. You're so good at finding me, only lost in the mystery of the depth of your love for me. Just as knowledge is too wonderful for me, and I can't even understand it. Just as knowledge is too wonderful. Even where my world is shaking, Lord, your hand will hold me still. Even where my world is shaking, your hand will hold me still. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made.
Boa noite, gente, tudo bem? Feliz sábado, é um prazer poder estar com vocês mais uma vez para estudar a nossa lição da Escola Sabatina em inglês. E eu quero chamar aqui os nossos amigos, por favor, vamos aí apresentá-los. Igor e Arthur. Tudo bom, Igor?
Tudo bem, pastor? Fala, Arthur, pessoal que está assistindo a gente. Não importa se é ao vivo, não importa se numa gravação depois. Seja bem-vindo ao canal aqui Adventista Rio. Muito bom estar com vocês mais uma vez.
Arthur.
Boa noite, gente. Feliz sábado. Muito bom estar aqui de novo com vocês mais uma vez.
Muito bom, pessoal. Olha, eu quero começar aqui colocando algumas pessoas que já chegaram e eu quero agradecer aqui a presença. A primeira pessoa que chegou foi a dona Eva. A dona Eva mandou um abraço para os queridos pastores. Então, aí o Igor e o Arthur já estão na classificação de pastor. Ainda não foi ordenado, né? Não foi ordenado, não tem problema. E a gente também aqui está recebendo aqui a presença da Mirelle. A Mirelle chegou. Seja bem-vinda, Mirelle. Seja bem-vinda, dona Eva. A gente sabe que tem outras pessoas assistindo, mas no chat, nesse momento, a gente está com eles aqui. Muito bem, pessoal. A lição dessa semana está muito gostosa. Nós já estamos prontos aqui para bater um papo. E antes eu gostaria de fazer uma oração para começar, tá bom? Então, como é uma oração em português, não vai ser tão estressante assim. Eu gostaria de pedir para o Arthur. Arthur, você pode fazer uma oração com a gente?
Posso, claro que sim. Então, oremos. Senhor, obrigado por mais uma noite que a gente pode se reunir para estudar um pouquinho sobre a Tua Palavra, sobre o Teu amor, sobre o Teu caráter. Que a gente saia desse estudo diferente do que a gente chegou, que ele alcance pessoas distantes em diferentes lugares e que alcance de fato o coração delas. É o que eu te peço em nome de Jesus. Amém.
Amém. Muito bem, aqui nós estamos recebendo aqui a visita do Elvis. Olha aí, ó. Elvis está no Pará. Se fosse em inglês, aí a gente fala Elvis is on Pará, ou que nem aquela musiquinha, né? Elvis not there, Elvis is there. Só zoando pra caramba.
Giovanni Elvis é telespectador assíduo do canal da Igreja de Botafogo.
Aí, ó,
sempre
então,
tá mandando comentários aí.
Seja bem-vindo, Giovanni. Obrigado. Thank you very much. Bom, vamos começar a nossa lição em inglês. So, let me share my display to you. The first is this. So, all right. Let me. The week at a glance, the rhythms of rest, lesson 9 is our lesson for this week. An interesting lesson. The memory text, I like to begin with this text, a well-known passage on the Bible, Genesis 2, verse 3. Then I read, "Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made." So this is a interesting point on our lesson, that Sabbath will be our issue for this discussion. But there are some points that I like to highlight to you. The first point is on video that I can take it from web. Bible Info is my source, and I like to share this video to begin our reflection on Sunday's lesson, right? So please, Igor and Arthur, let me share this video with our friends.
Are the 7 days of creation? On the first day, God created light. On the second day, God created the atmosphere. On the third day, God created dry land and plants. On the fourth day, God created the sun, moon, and stars. On the fifth day, God created birds and sea creatures. On the sixth day, God created land animals and humans. On the seventh day, God rested and made the Sabbath holy.
Interesting video, right? So let me show the note that I prepare for you. The analyzing our memory text, there are the three well-known verbs. The first verb, blessed. The Sabbath was declared a special day. Why? Because God chose this day with a special kind of bless, right? The second verb, sanctify. The Sabbath has holy purpose. It's different from each other days. So God sanctified the Sabbath. The third verb, the third word is rested. So this is interesting because God needed rested. So rested maybe means turn off our daily activities, day by day activities, right? So our memory text shows these three important points, and the Sunday's lesson, Prelude to Rest, has our begin of our ideas of our brainstorm for this study. The first point that I like to highlight is every day God made an assessment of creation. This is very important. The second point, on Adam's creation, we found a different way to create. It seems there was a special treatment. How? Well, on the creation, God only spoke, and the things rise, right? So on Adam's creation, we found a different way. This way was God humble or blend down on the earth to use his hands and made this first human being. And on the second question of the Sunday's lesson, what was different on creation of humanity, of human being? I choose one answer that was place. Place when Adam was created, the Eden's garden was a perfect place. Everything was good. Remember, on the end of each day of creation, God talked about, wow, this is good, right? And the place was a very, very special place to Adam and Eve. The difference on the creation of human being is easily found on its purpose. What's the purpose of the creation of human being? Probably the purpose is to show the character, the beauty, the kindness of God. So human beings, Adam and Eve, could show these aspects of the character of God. On Adam's creation, God didn't speak. He bent down, as I said before, he bent down to create Adam, to do him with your own hands. This indicates a kind of closeness of God. This is interesting. On creation of Adam, there was a closeness of God, or closeness to God. On Eve's creation, God took a rib from Adam, and this indicates a closeness between man and woman. So Igor and Arthur, there are special lesson in this meditation. The male creation, the Adam was first created. There are a special purpose. The closeness, nearness to God is made specifically to him. And after Adams was so close to God, Adams is able to closeness with to his wife, Eve. To conclude this Sunday's lesson, the bless of God is found in marriage of male and female. Remember, God was the one who blessed them. This is an important tip. At the end of the sixth day, God saw that everything was very good. This difference, because on end of each day, God talk about, this is good. But on the end of sixth day was very good. So God end his creation, and God talk about this kind of creation. So the lesson of Sunday is very nice. Is a prelude to rest. Em português, eu quero mostrar aqui então o Giovanni, mais uma vez aqui, ele escrevendo. Tamo junto até o fim da redenção. Ó, rapaz, o cara mandou ver aqui. Obrigado, Giovanni, valeu. Temos aqui também a Dona Odete. Olha aí, Dona Odete é a minha mamãe. Ela diz, God bless you. E aí eu respondi para ela, thanks, mom. Obrigado, mãe. Obrigado, Giovanni. So this is so important to meditate, right? Arthur ou... Desculpa. Igor, do you want to talk about Sunday's lesson, a prelude, some aspect of this creation?
Arthur?
Eu acho muito interessante como no final do sexto dia, né, ao invés
Mas
de
você vai
ser
falar
bom...
em português?
A pergunta foi feita em português, era para responder em inglês?
The content will be on English, right?
Okay, let's restart. One of the things I find most interesting is that how on the sixth day, things weren't simply good, they were very good. The sixth day, that being the creation of humans, is clearly the one that God spent most of his concentration, if we could say that. I mean, he went and did that with his own hands, and what God does with his own hands is always very good. That's it. I think that's what I want to say about Sunday's lesson.
I would like to go back to the title, this week's title, that talks about the rhythms of rest. I think that is very important to talk about this topic, especially because we live in a society that is working a full time, like 24/7 system, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A society that is always connected, a society that is always pursuing success, looking for money, looking for wealth, and looking for accomplishment. And it's really fun, really cool to see how God managed this system, this week system, because the week could end in the sixth day and we'll be okay. But God established this how can I say, this sequence of days, first day of labor, second, third, and goes on. And he established this specific day for rest. And that was made because of us, because of the man, not because of God. We can read that in Matthew, the book of Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, and it's really cool, as I was mentioning, because we can see this time system that God established. We can see the earth that goes around the sun, the earth goes around itself, and the situations involving the moon, our natural satellites. So you can change the month, the sea, and God established this week system. I think that's not a natural satellite or star that separated specifically the 7-day system of the week. So it was directly ordered by God. So I can see that it was a specific designation that He made it at the creation, and it goes on throughout the history, throughout the ages. Let us say that, and it has a lot to do with some specific, some important point that we are going to discuss today, because we can see how this was directly act of God, and He was thinking about us. It's really cool to realize that He was thinking not about his how can I say, it was not a selfish establishment that God put at the creation by that time. So He created the Sabbath because he loved it so much, that man, that woman that were just created by Him in the previous day. So He established this blessing, this situation. So there are some important reasons that we're gonna study from this moment on.
Thank you very much. On the Monday's lesson, there are some points very interesting about Arthur talked and Igor talked too. I like to share the lesson with you. Well, the Monday's lesson is very interesting. Let me read. The second paragraph on Monday's lesson says, the Sabbath is part and parcel of God's creation. In fact, it is the culmination of creation. Well, if the Sabbath is the culmination of creation, it's more easy to understand the command to rest, because there are only they that got so worried about that, then so He wants to share this worry with the human beings. So in this day, God share some kinds of purpose. So God commanded the rest on this specific day. On awards, here I like to highlight to you, God made rest and created space for community. Interesting, this idea. God made rest and created a space for community where humanity, in those days the core family of Adam and Eve, could stop their day-to-day activities and rest side by side with their creator. The idea of closeness, right? First idea, closeness to God, Adam and God, and the second closeness, Adam and Eve. Let me share another here. My note is very Easy. The command to rest. What does the Sabbath remind us of? Monday's lesson is very interesting because this kind of memories is so interesting to meditate. The first point that I answer on my lesson is our origins. Why? Because our origins point us to idea of a creation, of a purpose, of a own creator that was responsible for all kind of creation, right? Is different of accident, as evolution says. Our origins begins with God on the creation week. The second point, the creation of everything. The Sabbath reminds us about the creation of everything, because everything was created by God. The third point, the Sabbath reminds us our relationship with the seventh day. Well, this is so logical. Why do you put this answer on this note? Remember, the Sabbath was chosen not by me, not by Jews, not by Moses. The Sabbath was blessed, sanctified by God. And God created, made a rest and a place to rest. God rests too. So the memories, the remind about Sabbath leaders is our origins. Everything was created by God, and the own Sabbath that is a Tuesday by God to our rest and meditate and closeness to Him. All right. In Portuguese. Obrigado, Dona Eva. Dona Eva fez um comentário aqui, ó. Como evitar de tornar o sábado restritivo e legalista?
Dá uma semana de oração isso aí, hein?
Essa aqui foi boa, hein? Ó, eu posso até deixar o Igor e o Arthur responder, mas como eles ainda não estão ordenados, eu vou responder, tá bom,
O pessoal
Dona Eva?
vai achar que a gente é pastor de verdade. O Arthur é filho é pastor pela linhagem de sangue, né? Eu sou pelo Espírito mesmo, assim, designado, comissionado por Deus aí.
Pela graça.
Pela graça.
Tá bom. Dona Eva, eu vou responder para você em português, porque eu sei que você tem um pouquinho de dificuldade nesse ponto. Então, eu vou levar a lição para sexta-feira, tá bom? Aqui na sexta-feira. Na sexta-feira, nós temos as citações de Ellen White aqui em cima e algumas questões de discussão. Então, eu vou pegar essa segunda questão que ajuda a gente a responder a pergunta da Dona Eva. Diz assim, ó. O que você acha do argumento de que o dia não importa, contanto que tenhamos um dia de descanso por semana, ou de que Jesus é o nosso descanso sabático, e que, portanto, não há necessidade de guardar nenhum dia como dia de descanso? Então, Dona Eva, este ponto, esta pergunta, ela é um contraste com a sua pergunta. A sua pergunta tem a ver com pessoas religiosas. Este parágrafo tem a ver com pessoas não religiosas. Então, Dona Eva, se as pessoas religiosas tratam o sábado de maneira restritiva e legalista, provavelmente o problema não está no sábado, mas no orgulho da pessoa religiosa, que faz do sábado um dia além, um sábado diferente do que Deus escolheu. Afinal de contas, foi Deus que escolheu o sábado, e o homem escolheu torná-lo muito restritivo, por N motivos, mas nós devemos nos concentrar em, primeiro ponto, closeness, a proximidade com Deus. E Adam, closeness to Eve, a proximidade com o próximo, assim como Adão teve proximidade com Eva. Podemos continuar? Let me see. On the Tuesday lesson, Arthur is the right guy to talk about the new circumstances.
Yes.
Arthur, do you like to do allow share the Tuesday lesson on my note here?
Yeah, of course.
Right. It's okay?
Yes, yes, it is.
All right. You can talk, Arthur.
Okay, thank you. Well, Tuesday's lesson starts talking about the generation of Israelites that spent their first days on the wilderness, watching their ancestors die in no man's land. They literally grew up in the presence of God. They would see the pillar of cloud, the pillar of fire every single day, which were literally the presence of God manifested again every single day for 40 years, and they were also fed with God's bread that would pour without fail from the sky. The manna would come every day in the 6 first days of the week and would only be good to eat on that same day, except on the sixth day when they were supposed to gather double portion. God asked them to rest on the Sabbath and also provided them with enough supplies to do that. And he did all that even before he gave the Israelites the 10 Commandments. And I really do believe that he did that for a great reason. I believe that God wanted the Israelites to understand that their salvation would never come through works. God was the one feeding a people with no land to harvest. God was the one providing shade and shelter to a people that had no city. He was the one being graceful to a people even before giving them a law code. Of course, he already had his he was already teaching them in a lot of different ways, but he hadn't formally gave them, like the terms of the covenant.
Yes.
And also, he was also the one giving rest to a people that really didn't work that much. They just had to trust God, follow him, and believe that he would take care of them. God himself was the one meeting every need necessary for the people to obey and to live and to be healthy, happy, and to live a good, full life. Nehemiah says, Nehemiah 9 verses 20 and 21. You sent your good spirit to instruct them, and you did not stop giving them the manna from heaven or water for their thirst. For 40 years you sustained them in the wilderness, and they lacked nothing. Their clothes did not wear out, and their feet did not swell. I think that resting in God is not actually a concept created on the seventh day of creation, since being a source of rest is actually part of God's character. That's literally part of him, just like love, grace, mercy. Those are simply part of him. Those weren't created during the creation week. So God didn't really have to create rest. He's just being literally teaching us to do it in and through him ever since that first seventh day, uh, ever since he created humankind. Genesis 2 verses 1 and 2 says, "So the creation of heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work." And on Mark 2:27, Jesus says that the Sabbath was made for men, not men for the Sabbath. So, yes, God, let's say, created the Sabbath, established the seventh day as a day of resting, but being a source of rest is just part of him. He didn't have to create that. He's been teaching us to rest in him ever since Eden, then in the wilderness with the Israelites, then with Jesus, and over and over and over again. Rest was not created as a gift for us. We were created to rest in God, which I guess is also one way to answer Eva's question. A way to not see it as a legalistic way is to understand that we were not created to follow this amount of rules, but we were created to simply rest in God and in the seventh day, the Sabbath. This whole idea is an act of faith. Isaiah 55 verse 1 on the New Living Translation, it says, I think it translates it really nicely. It says, "Is anyone thirsty? Come and drink. Even if you have no money, come take your free choice of wine or milk. It's all free." Again, Matthew 11:28, as Igor mentioned actually earlier, Jesus says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." And I think understanding that resting on Sabbath during our lifetime, or literally anyways, anywhen, is understanding that God gives us rest. Jesus gives us rest. And to truly rest, to truly live this rest that God created, established in Eden, and then taught the Israelites in the wilderness, to really do that, to really understand that and live that, we have to come closer and buy wine and milk, even though they're free, because God just gives us this rest. And that is Tuesday's lesson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Em português, Eva, você ouviu, mas talvez não tenha percebido. O Arthur, ele comentou um pouquinho sobre a sua pergunta. Ele falou aqui um pouquinho do inglês, ele leu algumas passagens, bateu um papo aqui, foi bem interessante, viu? Muito bem, a dona Eva, ela agradeceu aqui, ela disse que ficou bem melhor a explicação. Quero também mostrar aqui uma amiga nossa, a professora Eula, ela está lá em Curitiba. Muito obrigado, professora Eula, ó, saudades, você do coração, parceira, gente finíssima, muito obrigado, tá bom? Muito bem, pessoal, estamos aqui caminhando, pensei que a gente ia terminar antes do jeito que tá, né, Igor? A gente fala muito, rapaz, não é possível?
Eu avisei.
Muito bem. Vamos caminhar, amigos. Vamos para a lição de quarta-feira. Quarta-feira, another reason to rest. So, Igor, are you ready to talk about this Wednesday lesson?
Yeah, we reach a point that the story is connected with Arthur was mentioning. We reached a point that when the people were about to enter into the promised land, and the context. Moses was a great leader of the Israelites, and when he knew he was about to die and the people was about to enter into the promised land, as I said, he reminded them of some important ideas. And the book of Deuteronomy is a reminder of the most important part of the covenant, of the law that was given by God to the Israelites, to his people. So Moses knew the people might put God aside, might forget what God had done for them during his throughout the years since they were set free from the slavery in Egypt. And Moses realized that maybe ingratitude would be a threat that could set the people apart of God, could separate the people from God for, of course, for not an initiative of God, but as an initiative of the people. So there could be a separation, could be a problem in that relationship. So Moses came with like a series of sermons, let me say this way, that is the book of the Deuteronomy. And in Deuteronomy, Moses repeats some points, some aspects, some parts that are there, the word that is, there always will be very important for the people at that time and for us. And I think that's a really good strategy that Moses took in that moment. And he chose to emphasize the past. So he wants then the people to understand their part of the covenant, so they could acknowledge, could recognize God as the only and one God, because there were many gods, false gods, fake news that came from other people around them. But we are talking about the one and only God, the true God. And Moses wants the people to recognize, to acknowledge God as their supreme leader, a theocracy, a legitimate theocracy. Let us put that way. And I think that it's interesting to realize it, to highlight that. Remember where we came from will help us to find the right way to the future, will lead us to the future, and will help us not to make the same mistakes that we made in the past. So why I put in this context, because then came the Sabbath, the commandment of the 10 Commandments, and specifically the Sabbath. There was wrote initially in the book of Exodus, but as we saw some lessons ago, this is a gift that God gave to us in the creation. And the first time that God wrote with his own hands was in the table of commandments, wrote in the stone. And then Moses repeat this part of commandments, the 10 Commandments, and specifically the Sabbath, in the book of the Deuteronomy. So the Sabbath comes with its important role, not only a role of physical rest, but also remember, as a reminder, a remembrance of who is the God that set them, the Israelites, the people of Israel, that set them free from the slavery in Egypt. And when we go to the Wednesday's lesson, that's the most important point, the most important part, the most important concept that the lesson brings to us, and the Bible also brings to us, of course. Ultimately, when you're gonna see this role, this purpose of Sabbath, not only a reminder that God delivered them from the slavery in Egypt, but ultimately that God set us free daily, day by day, constantly, instant by instant. God set us free from sin. It's really interesting to see this new aspect, this new look, that this new perspective that the Bible, this text in Deuteronomy brings to us. And we can read that part in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 15. There are many connections with the text in Exodus, many similar aspects, but Moses, inspired by God, of course, he added this part. I'd like to ask you to read with us Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 15. It says that, remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. So, this verse completes the package, and that God is our creator. And since we all have seen it and we are in need of his redemption, so that's a reminder also that he is our liberator. And as Giovanni Elvis mentioned before, right when we started this live stream, we are together, we are connected with God. If we choose his just accept his ministry of reconciliation, of reconnection that was taken here on this earth by Jesus, so we can find the true rest, the true liberation, the true freedom when we acknowledge that God is our creator and God is our liberator. I think that's the principle, the main part of this text in Deuteronomy, and that most important part that Moses wants the people to acknowledge in that moment, to recognize God not only as a God, he sent fruit to us, but he's also, most importantly, our liberator.
Right. Thank you very much. Was so nice meditate about it. In Portuguese. Wow. Let me show, right, the components of our panel of the Seventh Day Adventist Study of Sabbath School. Português. Obrigado, Igor. Foi muito interessante a sua fala, professora Eula. Eu já mostrei essa aqui da professora Eula. Eu quero mostrar essa aqui. Ela falou: nossa, o Arthur cresceu. Pretty. Então, obrigado, professora. Aí.
Obrigado.
A professora Eula lembra do Arthur um pouquinho diferente, né? Mas ele.
Arthur do Velho Testamento.
O Arthur ele está ficando o Arthur do Velho Testamento, né? Está ficando. Inclusive aqui, para você fazer parte da escola sabatina, você tem que ter óculos e barba.
Sim.
Aí, ó. As meninas estão muito ocupadas sexta-noite. Na sexta, pastor, essa sexta não posso participar e tal. Tá bom, então vamos só os meninos mesmo. E a gente vai lá estudar. Bom, vamos para as nossas conclusões, ok? Vamos para a lição de quinta-feira. Tuesday lesson. Keeping the Sabbath. Let me share my lesson to you. All right. Let me see. Please, just a moment. All right. Thursday lesson, keeping the Sabbath. Keeping the Sabbath has an interesting point. I think that on Wednesday, I post on my Instagram account thought about keeping the Sabbath. And some guys wrote on the commentary field and talk about this command by God, because it's our duty to keep the Sabbath. So there no more space to debate or discuss this idea. Well, why is so important to keep the Sabbath? So there are some points that I like to emphasize, to show to you. The first point is our opportunity to worship God. So in this paragraph, after the question, I think that you can see, yes. So I switch my display on my computer. So I read, because Sabbath keeping means celebrating creation and redemption. Its atmosphere should be one of joy and delight in the Lord, and not one of gloom. So this is so important because the Sabbath point to the Lord and not to my idea, my opinion. So keep the Sabbath. Remember that God is on the control. Well, this is so important point. Another important point is this two verses, Psalm 92 and Isaiah 58. So there are so many points here, so important. Closeness in Psalm 92 is my choose words to talk about the Psalm, and Isaiah is remember command to keep the Sabbath. Remember of don't allow any kind of service or people to work through us or to us. And another important point is this question. On Leviticus 19, we can read about respect our relatives, father and mother. And on next idea on this verse is to keep the Sabbath. So the authors emphasize this idea here. Sabbath keeping also means nurturing our relationships with family and friends. God provides time for focused fellowship with the whole family, and it includes rest for even the servants and the family animals. Sabbath and family go together. So, this is important to keep the Sabbath because on this day we can made rest with our families, with relatives, parents, friends, neighbors, because the Sabbath has a purpose. As I talk on Sunday's lesson, remember, the Sabbath was blessed because his it day was chosen by God, was a special day for my own desire. No, for by the wish, the desire of God, share my blessing to another people that are in need. So I like to end our lesson on Friday's lesson and allow my friends Igor and Arthur make a commentary if they want. Friday's lesson. Further thought. I like to read this point. The second paragraph. One of the important reasons why the Lord delivered Israel from slavery to Egypt was that they might keep his holy Sabbath. Wow, it's so important. The Sabbath was so important to God that God released his people from Egypt. And in this phrase, I read, this would indicate that Moses and Aaron began a Sabbath reform in Egypt. Interesting. Some of us nowadays don't realize the importance of this release of slavery that God made on by Israel people by Moses and Aaron, right? And the Sabbath points us to remember our origins, our slavery, our past, and all kind of blessings that God poured out in us and our relatives too. Em português. Muito bem, Igor e Arthur, já podemos terminar. Vocês querem falar mais alguma coisa?
As a general idea of this lesson, it's a blessing when we reach out the rhythm that God established for our lives in every aspect, and most importantly, in this resting system that He established in creation, that is the Sabbath. And we must follow the example that God gave, because He created the day not for Him, as I said, and not for a selfish decision, but as a gift for others. In the same way, when we talk about the keeping the Sabbath, that's you reach the center of the target of this message when you talk about serving to others, to being a servant in this day, because God was a servant to us. I like that as see in this perspective. He was a servant to us when He gave us this gift, and as we as well, we have the opportunity to serve others in this day. It's not a day for ourselves, not a day for selfishness, a day for service, a day for
as Jesus said on New Testament, I came to serve, not yes.
Yeah, that's right. And a day of service, not a day. Of course, there is a physical rest involved in that, but helping others to get rested is I think that's the main part of the Sabbath. So it's not you seeking or you're pursuing your own rest. It's giving a possibility to others to rest. And most importantly, ultimately rest in God. I think that's the message that the Sabbath gives to us, and we're gonna study about it the next week. We're gonna talk more about it. There's a lot of implications, a lot of insights that came from the Sabbath. I think that for today, I think that is the most important part, to understand the system that God created. It's this system, this rhythm, that was made for us for our own good. And so we can replicate this system by serving others.
Ok. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado, Igor. Arthur, tudo certo?
Opa, tudo certo, sim. If I may, what Igor said is very, very, very interesting. Jesus came to serve, as you also mentioned, Pastor. And what he did most while he was here among us was healing, preaching, teaching, and taking away the burdens and the yokes and the heavy things from everyone's shoulder. He gave them not literal physical rest, but he helped them to rest in God, in Him, in His Word, in His love. So I think that's the main point of this whole resting idea.
Thank you very much, Arthur. So let me show my lesson is Portuguese, right? But this is important. So Igor and Arthur, are you ready for our final question? So I can, well, em português. Muito obrigado pela presença de todos. Chegou a hora de nos despedirmos. Nós vamos embora. Se você ainda não fez a assinatura da sua lição, ainda dá tempo, tá bom? Não esqueça. Tenham todos um feliz sábado. Deus abençoe. And remember, I studied the lesson.
Do
Do
you?
you?